Good evening. You are watching the Policy Times. Policy Times, very exclusive show unleashing India Global Web Summit series. Policy Times as a development media, being the development's voice for nation building in a different way, are bringing to you a lot of quality, intelligent, and intellectual policy discussions, which directly, indirectly leads to nation building in the country. Unleashing India Global Web Summit Series is one of Policy Times elite such platform where we are trying to connect experts, as well as we have the chairman of the session also, Dr. Sekhar, who himself is an expert and policy analyst, policy influencer in the country, is also trying to bring different aspects of the society which can contribute tremendously in the country post COVID. Now, we all know there are a lot of economic challenges the country is going through, the whole world is going through. COVID was a big challenge for the whole world. India is no exception. There has been tremendous economic impact now, where we need to create 1 crore jobs, every 10 million jobs every month. We have lost a couple of million jobs. So in that context, we need to create a massive employment. Today, I was reading one paper which also said that we might lead to cost push in inflation, which means as the petrol price is rising, we need now to address the cost push inflation equation that is in front of the country. Huge population is youth. Now, what are or what can be the probable solution? On the other hand, our prime minister is saying to achieve $5 trillion economy soon. Now we are at two and a half and a little more than $2.5 trillion economy, close to $3 trillion economy. How do we reach there? One of the domains that can directly play critical role, not only to create massive jobs that is desperately needed in this country, but also create a massive economic disruption if we manage it positively. And thirdly, it can also lead to a lot of export earnings for the country. So, clubbing all these two together, in short, we call it blue economy, the blue world that is surrounded uh, the country by has immense, tremendous potential. The ocean economy, basically, we call it. So, now what is the economic relevance of this ocean? What would be the level of impact of if we manage the ocean economy positively? So now it is ocean is no longer just a climate change or sustainability issue. How do we really make economic sense of it? All the current economic challenges we face, what role can blue economy play? Ocean economy play is all that we are going to discuss. And today's expert of this discussion is Dr. P. Sekhar, who is chairman of the Unleashing India Global Web Summit this series, and also the Smart Cities panel. He's an author, one publisher, policy influencer. He has written more than 80 plus books. He has been recognized and awarded by India's leading personalities, including Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, for his contribution in the field of technology innovation. Now he is dedicating his time mostly in some important nation building activities which can positively impact the nation. Now, with this, I want to give the floor to Dr. Sekhar to make a detailed presentation about the blue economy, its prospect, its definition, industry associated with it, and what prospect can it bring at a time when the country is suffering tremendously. Then, after that, we will discuss about how is the government taking these things forward and how will it really impact post-COVID situation. So, Dr. Sekhar, over to you.
Thanks, Akram. This is 78th show, and here we are not calling an external expert. I will be giving a whole overview of this blue economy. A blue economy was one coincidentally which brought Akram and we together about 4 or 5 years back, and when we were invited to present this in front of 11 heads of countries on behalf of Government of India, and it was an excellent reception and excellent feel of this sector. And coincidentally, even my book on blue economy was launched in this particular event. Now, blue economy is a very, very interesting and very forthcoming. One minute, I'll just go to the presentation.
Right.
So, as I said, blue economy has its own major opportunities, and it has got its own spread, which is very, very dynamic. First screen. First screen has to come.
Okay, so you have to go up and take the first.
I'm giving, it's somehow gone to the last screen.
Right.
Just a minute. It is going up.
Yeah, it is
There
going
also.
the first one.
Take another few seconds.
So,
Because this is a 1 hour presentation. After half an hour, I'll have a small break and then ask Akram whatever questions he or anybody else has got. And in the first half, let me give a total overview of the importance of this particular sector, particular field. It is a revolutionary sector. Believe me, this is one of the things which will give rise to India's real prosperity. Now, coming to the first slide, of course, is our title slide: enhanced role for development of blue economy with $1 trillion US dollar planning with smart and secure governance for self-sustained growth. A very complicated topic, but the subject itself is very complicated. What does it mean? That there is something called blue economy. Why it is blue also will come, and which can give rise to $1 trillion India's economic growth. And with smart and secured governance, this will give a self-sustained growth, which is all, every word is important in whatever we are trying to say and do. Now, talking of blue economy, yes, where do I come in picture? I have written a book on blue economy way back, about 5 years back. And then, coincidentally, even the Chief of Navy has given a forward note, and many others who have given an appreciation, including I was invited to USA to present this some of these things. So, but these credentials may not do much unless we have a real value to the whole thing. And to understand everything, let us understand first India, and then where does blue economy come in picture. In our whole system, nature has given us land and water. Okay, land is whatever we see. As India, we have got almost 3.27 million square kilometers of land, and inside the land, so many things happen. And water is a balance. Okay, water somehow is far more than land in the whole world. Almost 70% of the world is water, and water encompasses so many things. And water is the one which gives life to all of us, life to any living being, including the non-moving living beings like a plant. They need water. There is no element which doesn't need water. If it has to live, if it has to live, it needs water. So we need to understand the significance of blue economy in terms of why do we need, because that is what brings us life. Life is something which is nothing to do with land. Land is the one which we live on, but water is the one which makes us live. Okay. So that's why there is some small statements we have made in terms of in India, how much water is available, where are they available, and why are we not able to do it is what we will cover, along with the other opportunities, which is far more than the water for living. The water for living is a small portion, but a very important and significant portion. Because unless we live and live happily, there's no point in exploiting other resources. So we have to know that when we are saying water, we have got huge irrigation project, we got water below the ground, we got rainwater harvesting. Even in a place like Bombay, as much water is needed by Bombay is coming by the rain. But we don't do any rain harvesting. So 99% is going into the ocean or canals or whatever. So if you do rain harvesting, we will not require even the water from the dams from where it is coming. So it's a question of structured planning. It's a question of structured way of implementation. It's a question of the way everybody has to appreciate the importance of why we are doing what we are doing, and then it takes us into a very different dimension. So water from various this thing is the one which takes care of this thing. And talking of, say, even Bombay, it has got a huge seashore, and there's so much of water available on the other side of this thing where you can do desalination and have the same water. Now, this particular series which we are doing is because of COVID, and we should know that COVID is again what we technically call a World War III with an invisible enemy which is shooting from all sides, and we don't know where are the bullets, and it is hitting the wrong things. An important thing, which is economy, which is our survival, which is our planning, which is our moral, which is our anything to do with a happy life. COVID is hitting us today. Yes, fortunately, the fortunate part of COVID is that COVID has brought some different grade of standards for India in the world, and in the whole world. It has brought a huge prestige, right from a simple thing like a namaste, which has been exported from India to the world, to a vaccine, to world is now wondering, whereas India should have been most affected. They would have expected some 10 million, 20 million people to die in India. We do not have any big numbers, but we have been over careful. We have taken things in a right spirit, and we have ensured that there is no spread, because we should have been the most spread because we were nearest to China. A lot of people are living in Wuhan from where things have started, but we were least affected. I mean, to put technically, to close this COVID portion, 0.8% of India was affected. Out of this 0.8%, 98% have recovered. Out of this 0.8%, 2% have really died. And the number of deaths on the whole is far less compared to the normal deaths. Normally in India, about 27,000 people die daily, 75,000 people are born daily. And out of this 27,000 people, the averaging of this COVID era is only far less. It is 23, 24 in that range, in spite of the fear which it has created. So, but fear is fear. Fear can be with nothing also, but when fear is there, there's a mob psychology, there's the mob mentality, there's a mentality of, the way things are projected. So just like a ghost story, if I keep saying there's a ghost sitting on the other side, there will be no ghost, but the fear has already spread. So we have to, give the devil its due, and give the COVID its particular respect which it wants to command, so that it can make us go back and live peacefully. Now, coming very strictly to blue economy is what we call as a water-based economy. Now, as I told you, almost 70% of the world is water. Even in terms of transportation, 95% of the transportation as such is done through water. Okay, even though we have so many roads, so many railways and all, but when we talk in terms of quantity, it is very surprising, but true. And second aspect of water-based transportation. Water-based transportation is hardly 2% of the land-based transportation. So the cost is also very cheap. It is clean, it is green, and blue has also got various significance. Blue is supposed to be one step above green in terms of certain logics of blue economy. Certain logic of blue is water-based economy. Certain logic of blue economy is ocean-based economy. Certain other places are so that it is underwater, it is water-based, but in terms of above the EEZ area and so on and so forth. So in our definition, we have taken blue economy as a basically water-based economy, whether it is a ocean or river or a canal or a lake, it is blue economy. So that we take the best of the system rather than going into the technical definitions and technical forays. So if you see this broad definition, we have a huge coastal length, 7,500 kilometers. We have so many ports. I'm not going to each numbers, 12 major ports and 187 minor ports. And then we got coastal states, 9, coastal union territories, 4. We have got 1,200 islands, which even in some count comes to 1,300 islands, because there are some islands which are too small to be counted, but they are islands which belong to India. Now, why these islands are important? As per international convention, almost 350 kilometers around our own place belongs to us. That means even the water yeah, around that area belongs to the country for whom the island is there. Because of this, India has got almost 2.3 million square kilometers of exclusive economic zone. What is exclusive economic zone? Exclusive economic zone is the area above the water near our land, near our island or our coastline. So that happens. So imagine we have got almost 3.2 million square kilometers of land area and 2.3 million square kilometers of area above the water, almost 1 to 1 ratio. For the water portion is little less, but still it is in that range. So that much area is there to be used, to be exploited, to be managed, to be maneuvered, to give us the economic prosperity. So now there are coastal wetlands are available. Then coastal district population is very interesting. 171 million is the coastal district population. If you see the influence area, it is even far more. Influence area means about 100 kilometers inside if you take, because that's where there is an impact of any particular thing. We always call it influence area, it's 100 kilometers away. So that comes to far, far higher than 170 million people. Then we have got mangroves area, we got marine fishing area, we got fishing population itself of 4 million, and we got dams is 4,800. Still more interesting, rivers and canal length is 1,95,000 kilometers, and we got reservoirs of 95,000 lakh hectares of. So we should only give confidence to people that for the next 200 years, whatever to do with water is there. At the same time, there is so much of shortage of water in so much of areas. It is all the question of managing. It is all the question of how you transport, how you propellate, how you take it to the right place at the right time, how you decongest some areas where water is going to be more difficult to be transported so that you don't have to really spend too much money on just transportation, where the person can be settled in some other area if the population is low, of course, not the population is high. If population is high, there is enough technology to drive a water even above the hill today. Today, technology is so powerful and strong that we can do. At the same time, even in a sea, we can go in even 10 kilometers below the sea and do whatever we want to do. We can create a tourist spot 10 kilometers below the sea. Technologies are available. Only these technologies, how well it can be sort of used, sort of exploited, and also how it will really be bringing economic prosperity, not just prosperity to few individuals, is what is we will also cover, and what is to be seen from blue economy. Now, blue economy is a sustainable use of all water resources, inland, marine, for economic growth and enhance standards of life, giving huge employment and with a good and happy life, a happy health and happy life. This is what is a broad definition. Fortunately, this particular definition was given by coincidentally me long back, and it is accepted and is getting accepted little globally also. In India, at least, this has been previously. It was all question of how ocean-based economy, blue economy was being debated. Now today, the debate is in terms of how the water can be used rather than going to the definition. But both definitions are basically for prosperity, not a question of our definition or somebody else's definition. It's a question of how water can be used for our economic growth. Now, objective of this is sustainability. Now, in my lecture, I'm going to go one step above sustainability to self-sustainability. Because if you talk only of sustainability, which also I'm having few slides on sustainability, then lot of money has to go in, lot of economic part has to go in. In self-sustainability, the same money comes from the system, which means there is no need to look from where the money will come. That is very, very important, because otherwise everything becomes academic. If I just give an advice saying that for sustaining new economy, you build this, you build so many ships, so you build so many, fishing pots, and finally there is no money, it is not going to be of any use. Okay. Since self-sustainability, it will also tell you where the money will come from, for which the end user can fully benefit from what is being recommended. That is why let us also understand the sustainability and self-sustainability. Sustainability is very, very core to the whole thing. Self-sustainability makes it practical. Sustainability is for our growth. We should know the importance. By putting the word self, we are growing. It is just like a child. First, it is to be sustainable. Self-sustainable is when it grows big, when this thing, it cannot just keep on hinging to the parents. If you know, even in animals, many animals, when the child becomes big, it just throws it out so that it becomes self-sustaining. Till sometime, yes, it feeds, it brings something. Same way for blue economy, to certain level, it has to be, sustainability has to be cutting across the board. Self-sustainability is something by which things will grow. So in that particular connection, to promote regional peace and environmental stability, why this particular words? Because water is the one which connects much of our, we have got 7,000 kilometers of land-based border, and we got 7,500 kilometers of ocean-based coastlines. So which all have to be properly shielded, properly protected, properly secured, properly ensured that there is people around that area do not suffer because of the external connection. The external connection can be people based external, which means there is some enemy sitting on the other side. External can also be because of a nature based. Suppose tomorrow tsunami attack, tsunami also will attack through ocean. So when it attack through ocean, we people around the ocean will suffer. You have many times earthquake coming, which also people around the area can have. You need not have tsunami, but you can have huge waves coming and destroying. Again, there'll be problem. We have fishing community which is totally dependent on the sea water around the coastline. So we have to see that they are secure. Many times by mistake they go into deep water and they get lost, or sometimes they are captured by pirates, or they are captured by enemy territories, or they just drown. So so the coastline, the management of coastline, every state has got its own beautiful coastline management in terms of security, in terms of planning. But lot more is to be done because of the complexity of the Indian environment. So second is to accelerate economic growth, social progress, cultural development to raise the living standards of the people. See, we are also adding cultural development, social progress. Why? It is not the economic progress alone is good for the country. It has to have social progress. It has to have cultural progress. These two give rise to what we generally now call as happiness index. In every one of my book, I devote one chapter for happiness index because it is not the GDP alone which is going to make our people prosperous. It is going to be the happiness index. Sometimes once you go to some area, the GDP may be whatever, but you have whatever you want for making a happy living. We should be this thing. We should not feel GDP alone is the barometer for progress. Okay, GDP is also a barometer of progress because there's a huge amount of people to be fed, people with huge expectations, people with huge requirements of technology, people with huge requirements of technology upgradation because technology is not static. So the technology upgradation is also extremely and very very important. So and in that there is a huge connect to the industry. That means what are the blue economy based industry which will employ people, which will ensure that people are taken in properly. Even fishing is no more agricultural field. Fishing is also an industry because it has got its own. So there are many fancy industries which will come as we go further. So when we talk of blue economy, see tourism and recreation. It is again a very big field. Transport and trade. Transport trade includes. If I just start making boats, it's a huge industry by itself because India was once the you know biggest in the shipping transport in the ocean transportation. Today we stand nowhere in whatever other countries have overtaken us. Yes, we are far above some of the low-lying countries, but we don't come in the top 10 even. Okay, which is not at all good. Being the number one country in the world 1,000 years back and being not even in the top 10 now, today it is something which is really bad. So, but from the economic point of view, even if you start building boats and ships, it has got a huge business, mind-blowing business, because it is internally with so much of 250,000 kilometers of internal canals, roads, and so on and so forth, and with so many islands coming in picture, the internal consumption itself will be really good. And with our formula of innovation and startups and self Atmanirbhar and all, this is going to be really good. Same way, something called waste disposal. Previously, what people used to do, whenever there's a waste in a city, put a long pipe and put all the city waste and spoil the ocean. Today, all those things are not. Today, there are rules which prohibit. There are rules which regulate. There are rules which penalize. Any wrong use of this type of common water. This is not something which is good because Because in a city, minimum 2 million, to city like Bombay has got 20 million people staying. Is there waste if you start putting in sea, you are spoiling the whole atmosphere, you are spoiling the whole environment. So waste disposal itself is a huge industry. Now, waste disposal can also be from the ship itself. So can the ship open up all the waste and put it down? So anyway, the moment ship is going, it is going to just dump. This may not be felt today, but over time, it spoils the whole environment. It spoils the many, argue, oh, this is a very small, it is not even, 0.001%. But when 0.001% keeps on multiplying, it becomes 100% not to this, I mean, soon it becomes, or maybe a little late, but still, by the time human beings are there to suffer. So we have to ensure that whatever we do with a long-term planning, long-term sustenance, long-term clarification. So here is blue economy at a glance we are seeing. Blue economy is supposed some of the agreed numbers are that in the world, it is supposed to be a $24 trillion economy. Yes, one can justify, not justify, one can argue. But this is some number which is generally agreed by experts. So I'm not going to the bottom. I've seen the calculation. So calculation has got a lot of variables which are all subject to, but it is a number which is not too big, which is not exponentially too big. Yes, it's a big number. And it is not small because ocean being such a huge this thing. So it could be even more than 24 trillion if at all we go into much detailed. So $24 trillion is good to assume as a world. Uh, so we are asking from Indian point of view that India will take care of $1 trillion blue economy because this is a new field. Till now, water-based economy was not considered as an economy at all. This is in the last few years that we are considering blue economy, or the way we have defined at least the water-based economy, because there's still a confusion of definition itself, whether blue economy is ocean or blue economy is deep ocean or blue economy is something. We are saying anything to do with water is blue economy. So $1 trillion is what is we are saying should be India's inward take home, and we will also come towards the end in terms of some interesting numbers from Indian point of view. So in such a calculation, we have to see how, because of blue economy, there will be a not only economic prosperity, like what we are saying, carbon absorption. If blue economy plays a huge role in bringing comfort in terms of the, you know, uh, in terms of the pollution, in terms of the environment. So it is an environment friendly system. That's why we said that when transportation is done through water, it is not only cheap, it is also environment. It may not be as fast. You cannot drive like a fast car and fast. So it's a question of proper connectivity, the question of proper connection. Just like today we got roads connecting X to Y. Today, very few countries have got, meant that some of small countries do have uh, water-based transportation. But large country like India and all have to spend next almost 25, 40 years to have a water-based economy parallelly going on the road-based thing. In many other plans, even we are responsible for giving that idea that high time we start doing it. Because then water also will be available. Water-based transportation will be more clean and good, and it will complement the other transportation. It may not eliminate, it will complement, so that we don't have to make one thing grow at the cost of something else which is already done, to let it disappear. We don't have to do that. So it will complement, it will take care of some percentage of the transport which will be more clean, more this thing, and it will also be like a major standby arrangement, because water based transportation will always be slower. So that also we should know that it will not be on a very, very high speed, even though some people do claim numbers which are unreasonably high. But water-based transportation will not have the speed with the other road-based thing, because today in road and other transportation, we are talking of, even road-based transportation at 500 kilometers and 200 kilometers and all. Of course, we should assume that road-based transportation will be 150 kilometers. Water-based transportation will be about 50 to 60 kilometers. Still, for the advantage it has got, we should be happy with a good planned. So as we can see that in terms of global figure, the ocean is vast, covering 140 million square kilometers, square miles. That is 363 million square kilometers, which is absolutely big. Because imagine 363 million square kilometers. Whole India is 3.2 million square kilometers. So it is more than 120 times India's size, is what is the coverage of ocean. And more than 600 people, 600 million people around the world, that is 10% of the population, is what we are estimating to be, people who are looking at sea for their living. Nearly 2.4 billion people live within 100 kilometers, which is what we call as the influence area. Influence area is about 100 kilometers from the from whatever way the water is traveling. So they are all very, very attractive from a techno-economic perspective. Now, suddenly I'm using the word techno-economic rather than economic, which change like the sustained and self-sustained, economic and techno-economic. No, economic means it's only the numbers in terms of the financial numbers, financial planning. Techno-economic is something, because when technology comes to the this comes to the economic portion, then the economic takes a very different turn. Okay, I will come little more in detail when I start describing the secure governance, so that we will understand what is the importance of this word techno-economic. In blue economy, definitely it is going to play a very, very huge and very important role. So these are all some international indexes for blue economy. We are, as I said, we are far behind, embarrassingly behind, but not too far. But from what India was in the beginning, it is quite so institutional. Because but even if you see, many of the smaller countries are able to, make way, whereas bigger countries have got bigger problems. Especially India with its own vastness in terms of the people vastness and the diversity of the people, the economic consideration, so many states, so many rules, so many union territories, each having its own, requirements. And of course, in today's case, along with that, there is a political problem. So India will have its own challenges in terms of growing up the ladder, but it has to take it in a proper way and grow. So this is what is EEZ. That means for India, initial definition was 200 miles. That's why we have shown this. Now it is also expanded to 350 kilometers, 350 miles. Okay. So there is no whatever we call as an exclusive economic zone, which we will come in under few minutes time, which will be really, really good. So maybe it is now half time. I would give the mic to
Thank you.
Akram.
Yeah, Dr. Sekhar, I got a couple of WhatsApp messages. Some of my friends who are watching, academicians, Professor Khairuddin is watching us, and a couple of questions. How this thing are in practical action oriented going to create a kind of jobs? Do we have some figures that, if we do this and this many jobs can be created in tourism, in transport, in oil, in blue economy tourism, then what would be the exact level of economic impact? Can we expect $1 trillion economic contribution through the blue economy concept? The other angle that I wanted to see, what is the exact action oriented progress we see from our current governments, especially the central as well as the coastal state governments? Because the coastal state governments, and we often have seen that the central government under the MEA have a lot of futuristic academic development. On the other hand, at the ground level in the state coastal states, they have no understanding about the macro and futuristic prospect of blue economy. How do we breach that? The third angle that I think Professor would be very interested to know is that we need to prepare our future generations, because the current generation are not well trained about the blue economy that we are talking now. 10, 20 years before, we should have trained them, then only they can lead their life and action into the action oriented part. Now people or students who are at the school level in the coastal states I'm talking about, and a large number of Indian states are coastal states actually, how do we take the blue economy action plan, action agenda and theory to those schools, colleges and universities where millions of students are studying, so that they, when they go into action policy level or different level, we can immediately lead to execution of such policies that this current ruling government is making.
Yeah, thank you, Akram. Maybe some of the questions are having direct answer right from the next slide, because we have said the key sectors of blue economy, which is going to play a huge role, which would automatically give rise to the employment portion. And fortunately, I have even quantified the numbers which will come for each, but that let me do as well. And even as far as training is concerned, only 2 weeks back, even Bombay University launched a program for blue economy. And of all the guys, Chief of Navy had come, Director General of CSIR had come. See the combination. Now, Chief of Navy has nothing to do with CSIR. CSIR is the Council of Scientific Industrial Research. The combination is because when we do, things in a scientific way, many of the employment, many of the needs of the people will be far better and scientifically met. And then, of course, the Navy and others can take care of the security aspect. So that also I will touch upon in a few minutes time. Okay. So now let me go into the various sectors and how the employment will be provided. What is the industry benefiting? What are the people around that area benefiting? Is it something which is to be thrust upon either by the center, the state government on people, or separated center to state? How it can be a win-win-win relationship. Now let me go to blue carbon. Now, blue carbon is something which will make the environment absolutely clean. Okay. This is something which every state government wants, every politician wants, every people around want. There's nobody who will say that, no, 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 I want to live in my old area in which every poor woman has to burn her charcoal to cook a coffee and tea, which is not something which will be required. Blue economy and blue carbon will have the cutting across the board a clean environment. Let us go to tourism and ecotourism. Okay. Now, when tourism goes, after all, state government goes to the micro level. You know, central government sees on a macro level or on a vision level. Now, at the micro level, when tourism goes, it gives a prestige to each and every institute. See the negative portion even about India's tourism. India, with so many tourist spots, it attracts 10 million people. Something like Hong Kong and Singapore, which have nothing like a tourist spot compared to what India has got, they almost attract almost same number, little less, 8 million. Now, isn't it embarrassing that the number of major tourist spots in India are 3,500. Minor tourist spots are 3 million. Okay. With that type of number, we don't even attract the numbers because of. So now, when blue economy starts working, there would automatically be a huge, because when so many tourists go, there's a huge fund flow. Every tourist wants to be even looted. Means he's ready to spend money. Looted does not mean I'm talking of the bad looting. He wants to spend money. He or she, the family wants to have a free time. Today, our own prosperity has gone up. Even some of the numbers, as you know, previously, even if somebody has got maybe X amount of salary, it was too big. Today, even 20,000, oh, it's a 20,000 only is getting. Okay, in the last 10, 12 years. So the numbers are going up, and that is just going up and up and up and up. And which is, of course, should not go too high because then we'll also break down. Okay, it should also, at every stage, it should saturate and then go, saturate and go, saturate and go. That's a separate aspect of economic prosperity. From blue economic point of view, even if it grows, it is good. Now, fisheries. Fisheries has been one of the most suffering industry. It is on and off. It has been taken up from historical reasons, from family to family. You know, people with nets which are not working, they are stuck, they are stretched, they are. It can give rise to a huge industry just to make nets, just to make trawlers, just to monitor the trawlers in terms of it not going too deep and the loss of manpower, loss of people, loss of boat, loss of you know the Coast Guard's system. So that nobody can object. Let us go to biotechnology. Yes, here there is a questionable area because this is something which is big industry. There are so many exotic material, especially when we have 2.3 million square kilometers of area to be tapped. There is below the water is ours, whatever is there to be done R&D. Their thing are very clear. We cannot just have our naval presence there, but we can do a lot of R&D, and we can create materials which are so good for health, so magical for our living, and so good for some of our technology requirements may not be health oriented and many of the industrial oriented. So they all can be tapped from biotechnology. Of course, this is very exclusive. This only center can come in picture. States may not like to get involved because there's a lot of money to be put in. There again, there are enough investors coming from outside the country who are ready to invest in the Indian brains. Okay, they also have enough of these type of EEZs, but people do not have that much of capable people. The Indian brain is something which is highly respected throughout the world, and this is something which is a gray area in terms of center and state, and who will take care, what will happen. That's why CSIR and DG had come. And now, sustainable tourism is same thing as ecotourism. Oil and mining, yes, this is something which we require. Of course, since that is more polluting, it is a sunset industry. It may not be sunrise industry. But whatever can be done should be done, and with the time it should be closed. Okay. Once the other non-conventional energy resources take up, it'll have to close. Deep sea mining in terms of exotic material along with biotechnology will have a huge thing. There only central government can come in picture. State governments, only some enthusiastic state governments may like to put their hand in. Otherwise, it is more of an industrial portion, which is not so much of employment oriented. It'll employ high level engineers, but it may not have the same amount of money put in this. May not give the same amount of employment which fisheries and tourism and others can give. Now, inland water transportation, huge. With almost 2 lakh kilometers of water belt, we have a huge this because every 5 kilometer, I'll come to the word hub in another few minutes time. Once you create a hub, it'll give rise to this renewable energy. Again, we should not do what mistake has happened in Texas. Texas, what they have done is they went only to renewable. The moment the climate became too cold, whole Texas is closed. They don't know what to do. We should always mix and match both. We should never even when electric vehicles come, we should ensure that oil is not totally made zero. That's what I was coming. That even when I said about oil and gas, it should not become zero. It should always have a minimal presence, so that in any emergency we do not know what. Sustainable shipping, it's revolutionary. As I said a few minutes back, in shipping, you do boating, you do shipping, you do adventure thing, you do skydiving. Everything is possible with respect to the area. So people will have something which is very good for them. Now, since I have described this so much in detail, I'll not go into the exact nature. Same thing, here it has gone into little more this thing. When I'm saying biotechnology means what it really consists. Minerals means what does it consist. So renewable energy is what. So since there'll be again, I'll find myself short of time. There's 15 minutes more. So I will not go into describing each of this. I want to close it sharply at 7:30. So let me go to select slides which are important from the description point of view. So this is slightly an important slide. Importance of coastal area for economic growth. Coastal area can have regional, economic, export complexes can be created. Technology can be created. Technologies, specialized centers can be created. They will have different grades of employment, of course. So when we come to technology, yes, it may not have the same amount of thing, but that is required. Once you want to make a different grade, because now is the time when India is expected to be among the top 3 to 5 countries in the world from all aspects. Blue economy should not be found anywhere lacking. Now, target for economic activity for on coastal again is something I will not go too much into detail. There are some few more important slides are there which needs to be, like you rightly asked the question in terms of the technical skills, how it will help, what will people benefit. Now, as I said, Bombay University has started. So many universities are behind me to help them in setting up something like a Blue Economy Academy. And already, of course, even I have worked out the syllabus, every detail which it requires. Because this is even a state which is landlocked state will require blue economy. Because this blue economy definition is for even inland waters. Okay, even some of the foreign countries are approached us in terms of blue economy. and some of the countries are totally landlocked. That means they are not having any access to sea. So since our definition of blue economy is more a water-based economy, many things like suppose shipping. If I have mini boats, I may not be able to have big ships for inland water, but many of the big boats will be there. Now you can make millions and millions, and they'll be used for it. It will be useful for sports. It will be useful for transportation. It will be useful for point-to-point. This thing it will be useful as a public transport. There are, as you all know, there are certain big boats which can even take our vehicles. It will land us from one place to another. Even the vehicle comes out and then takes you to your, land-based destination. So, on every aspect of blue economy, there are challenges, there are opportunities, and there is a growth. And the growth is more of a techno-economic growth. So, like you rightly asked, what is the policy framework for aligning, blue economy? Now, on the policy framework, again, a small guidance is yes, there is a huge work which has to go between center and state, but many of them have to be politically aligned, but they are not conflicting with each other. Okay, that we should know, because finally the people's interests are seen, except for high technology areas where there may be migration of people from one place to another because of a specialist of some nature will come, but that will be very small number. And there are places where there will be huge deployment of funds. Yes, they are gray areas. So if somebody has to put the fund, they would like to triply ensure that there is consistency in what is being agreed and what is being said. They would not like to see any change in government suddenly removing all the permission which is there. That is one thing where both governments have to give long-term approvals to the people concerned. It's a very gray area. Other than that, for fishing and for other tourism and all, there is no clash of interest, except for you know uh, and some of them are concerning external affairs, because many are to do with countries abroad, countries outside, especially in the south where we are touching Sri Lanka. On the west we are touching Pakistan. On this side, on the east we are touching Bangladesh. So these are areas where one has to very sensitively take care, because there multilateralism comes in picture, other countries interest comes in picture. We have to ensure that we do not get into skirmishes with other countries on a very frivolous matter. So here is where the policy framework for aligning, marine health or marine economic growth is more of economic health we are talking, not exactly our health. So that is something where we have to take full. Here I am talking about the key challenges for coastal. Again, I will not go into detail. Here I will go a little more into detail, because this is the one which is going to give you the final, what we call as the sustainable changes to self-sustained economy. Now, again, I repeat few things for brevity. That sustainable requirement is for general growth, where whatever is required is put by the government or by the people concerned, and then it gives a result. It may not give result. It's more like a grant coming in picture. In self-sustained growth, there is no grant. We work it out in such a way that everything becomes a profit center. What do we mean by profit center? It is not the profit made by a trader. It is profit by the system. Okay. So in a blue economy with self-secured governance coming in picture, means if suppose even if for a blue economy we assume that one canal is being built, the moment canal is coming in picture, the values around the canal will go sky high. The moment it goes sky high, we develop sort of hubs. And in blue economic principle, the hub maker in themselves come and make the canals free, because they are the people whose value will go skyrocketing high. Give them only a sweetener in terms of few extra FSI, which they will capitalize in another few years' time and get whatever they have invested, and get even more than what they invested on a fair, transparent system. So yeah, and there's a huge requirements. One of the hub can be boat making hub, one of the hub can be fish trawling making hub. I'm telling all the examples of this. It can be any other product also. It can just be a small thing making a masala which is made for food. So it automatically takes care of the making the canal first of all through without government putting money, and ensuring that the person who puts money, he gets the benefit, and whatever is benefited comes for the overall growth of the country. Okay. It may be locally required, or it may be required by other parts of the country, or 50% can even be exported to the other parts of the world. Because once we are quality conscious, once we are need-based production of this thing, once we have innovation as our core strength, then there is no limit to the market which we have to address. So this is something where I am still emphasizing in secured governance, we ensure that there's a huge change in the value because of the technology, because of the use of this. So the techno-economic portion builds a huge capital, and that capital is cycled back into system. I brought a small diagram also as we go. So here, in a self-sustained economy, whatever is a technical portion, if a bridge is built, on both sides of the bridge, the values are sky high. Today, those values are never captured. So if you capture the value, you give 10 million square foot building approval through a tender or whatever fair, transparent process, then the person can make even this bridge free. The government need not have to put the bridge. Okay, because then only thing is here the agreements has to be fair and long term, because the person may not be able to get his return just like a toll. In many of the toll, the money for the bridge comes after 25 years. So if you give a toll fellow only 2 years, except in very major cities like Bombay, Delhi, and all, the toll places take long time. So they all have to be given a fair amount of this thing, or you give a permanent. This figure is extremely important. Here, this gives how blue economy will benefit through secured governance for a marine hub. Marine hub means any, it can be hubs on our seaports, it can be a relay port itself, it can be a hub across many of the rivers and canals, and it can be around a lake, or it can be even in the mid-ocean on the on many of the islands where EEZs are there. Of course, we are not expected to build a hub on the above the water. Below the water, yes, we can have some flexibility. Above the water, we cannot extend our land area in because then it's not called EEZ has got those rules. So when the valuation goes up, as you can see, the benefit will plowed back, so that there is a huge cycle of money coming in picture. A small money, it gets puts some technical portion, maybe some portion of the road, some portion of the canal, some portion of a hub is created. Then the whole valuation goes up. The valuation plugs in more money. Then the cycle continues. So just to give a small example, in many of the islands, India has got 1,300 islands, 1,200 islands. 80% of islands are without any human beings. So the land value is almost nothing. So even if you build a house, you may get a house for 200 rupees a square foot. The moment you say this island I'm going to develop, the 500 rupees will become almost 2,000 rupees. The moment you start building, 2,000 will become 3,000, 3,000 will become 5,000. And if you build, if you say the 10 million square feet is to be built, you can just put the value, and that value will give rise to development of that particular hub. It could just be a tourism hub. It could be a, technology hub. It could be a shipbuilding hub, or it could be just a yoga center. It could be a, Ayurvedic center, or it could manufacture vaccines in allopathic vaccine which are required. So all those things are possible, and this value created brings back the money into the system. So in another 3 minutes time, I'll try to close. So these are the definition of the hubs, this modern township, which I said we are talking of. Fortunately, we had recommended each and every one of our islands to be smart cities, and government, I will not say they accepted my this thing at all. Government has created an island development authority where smart cities are supposed to be in these islands, which is something which we are very happy that this suggestion has somehow gone into the gone for the development. And believe me, once you got 1,300, 1,200 islands, which are all smart cities, some of them are very tiny. Of course, some of them are hardly 5 square kilometers. But there are many which are even bigger than Singapore. Okay, so you can imagine a city of 800 to 1,000 square kilometers. Almost we have got 10 or 15 such islands. They all can be future Singapores without competing with Singapore, because we got people to go there, and each of them, even if they take 8 to 10 million people, then you have a huge growth. Okay. So now I'll quickly go to the benefits, which was one of the questions which is asked. Again, security is very, very important. I'll not go into the detail on that aspect. I'll directly try to go to, yeah, okay. Now, one of the question was, what is the benefit which this will give? So I created this chart to say that this is not an academic exercise. This is a down to earth, practical, result oriented system, and which will benefit all aspects of national growth. Now let us tell you what are we have put in this chart and why it is practical and fully possible. Some of the numbers can be now or can be in 5 years time, but it will not be perpetual. We are saying the growth centers, assets, expected investment by private bodies, which means government is not putting the money. Here government is earning. Expected output, government has to manage. Government cannot be zero. Okay. Some small amount they may have to put. Okay. And expected employment. Okay. Now we say hubs. When I say each and every smart city will be around many of the islands, we are saying that okay, 8 of the bigger islands can be smart cities. So we are saying there will be so much of assets created. Okay. Then we are saying that it will have investment of almost 25 lakh crores spread over, of course, 10, 15 years time. It's not tomorrow. Then it will have government will earn something like 25,000 crores because a lot of things will go down this thing, and giving rise to potential employment of 5.5 million people. Today, all 1,200 islands put together do not have even 1.2 million people, or approximately 2 million is somewhere. The floating population also, if you see, is all 1,200 islands put together. Here, only those 8 smart cities which will give can give rise to 5.5 million people. Okay. Imagine how much India will gain if 5.5 million people can be profitably employed in this particular region. Because for every employed person, there's almost 4 dependent person, which means 5.5 million means is almost 25 million or 22 million people will be able to stay there. Same at tourism hubs. Okay, tourism hubs have got a revolving balance. So there we are talking of almost 14 lakh crores of investment. What do you mean by 14 lakh crores? There's not any imagined number. Now, these tourism hubs will be exclusive because expectancy of the today everybody is very, very high. And they will give rise to people who have got a capacity to pay, who have got a capacity to spend, and there will be exclusive 5-star and 7-star hotels. At the same time, budget hotels will be there for taking care of the others who may or may not be able to spend that much money. And this also will give rise to income generation for the government to take care of India. Because after all, this income government doesn't mean it goes to government in somebody's hand. And it can give rise to, of course, we put a very small figure as 0.25 million. Renewable energy. Energy is one of the most important aspects. There again, we have put some number. Shipbuilding, again, we have put some 3.5 million people can be employed. Biotechnology, we have purposely put less number, as I told you. Many of them will have to be exclusively high-tech engineers. And of course, supporting people will be there. But number for the relative ratio will be low. So by this, water desalination, mini hub, nano hubs will be far more, mini hubs will be little less. So all put together, we are talking of almost 20 million people to be employed with almost 73 lakh crores coming in from investors, nothing from government. Government may have to put a small fraction of it in the beginning, and that also it will come back to them by the revenues which it will come to the working of the system. So we are talking in reply to whatever Akram somebody has asked. This is a practical, doable, and in all political consideration also it is something. See, once the numbers are linked, then it stays for a longer time. So that is what is the thing. Now, next few slides I will close. That that has got a huge employment potential. This has got something which is non-competed. This has got requirement throughout the world. We are the leading country in various aspects of blue economy. We are the people whom even Pacific countries are looking up to us to support them. And we have been seafarers many ages ago, which we will come back. So benefits of this will be that you have so much employment which very little actual investment by the government. It will be by the investing people who will get returns, who will get guaranteed upward returns, and give rise to good employment and good way of life. Uh, Green and doubly green is blue, and doubly blue is prosperity. With that, I close today's.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Shekhar. So, is it over, Dr. Shekhar?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Wonderful. In fact, a lot of brainstorming points that has come out, and really, I'm so excited and happy to see the exact investment required and the kind of the employment creation that you have projected, which is really, I mean, eye opening. I think if this is given to the government would be extremely happy to take it from here, and we should reach out to the government policymakers at the center as well as in the state governments to convince that this is a long-term strategy, a long-term planning. If we have enough attention of the policymakers, I think this will make a huge impact in our coastal states and as well as to the overall economy of the country. Couple of things. So this is not like a miracle or a not a foolproof plan type. It has already been executed by many countries. Australia has been extraordinarily benefited by such planning and concepts. Caribbean economies have also been extremely successful in managing their coastal areas, their coasts. And the Indian Ocean Rim countries, many of the Indian Ocean Rim countries have really done this, what we are discussing today. India, we are always late in everything, but we need to pick it up and we need to, these are long term strategic investment. And if our policymakers take them positively, this will certainly give long term benefits to the country because it has the combination of geostrategic, security, as well as economic benefit. So none of them are ignorable from the national interest point of view because security, you have to secure your sea, otherwise you might have a lot of threats. You might have money, you will have threats if you don't secure your seas, because in the last war that we saw, it was from the sea only. Last infiltration that we saw, so we strategic security economy point of view, I think we should go and take very proactive action to it. So viewers, if you like our program, do subscribe and like our Facebook and YouTube page. We will be back with similar expert strategic discussion which are extremely important for nation building. Thank you. Keep watching.